In our latest update for FORCE 3.1, we've added our most powerful features to standalone, expanding your creativity for performance and production. FORCE now features onboard disk streaming, allowing you to instantly load and stream projects and record audio direct to disk. We've added 3 brand new plugin instruments, Odyssey, Mellotron, and Selena, expanding your sound capabilities. You can now connect class-compliant USB audio and mixer interfaces into FORCE, expanding the I/O up to 32 ins and outs. FORCE now includes MIDI Learn, allowing you to connect and control internal and external parameters from MIDI controllers. We've added a vocal suite to FORCE, allowing you to retune, add harmonies, and double in effects to your vocals and samples. We've added enhancements to drum and key group engines, randomization on your beats, portamento glides, drum effects, improvements to MIDI and CV, sample key detection, and you can now record automation across submixes, returns, and the master channels. We've also added 7 brand new plugin effects for today's sound: half speed, stutter, the granulator, diode clipper, diffuse and sample delay, and a brand new limiter. So why don't you sit back and enjoy this overview of FORCE 3.1. In 3.1, we've now added disk streaming, giving you the ability to instantly load and stream large projects for live performance, production, and recording audio direct to disk without having to load into RAM. This expands the capabilities and performance of FORCE, giving you the ultimate standalone experience. In this example, I have a project with over 100 audio clips assigned, which I'm now going to load into FORCE. As you can see, the loading time is instantaneous, opening up endless possibilities when accessing projects for live performance and creative production. Now, to access disk streaming, simply navigate to Preferences under Audio and Export and then press Enable Disk Streaming. This will already be ticked when you update FORCE. Now, any projects which are now saved, audio clips and tracks will now be streamed directly from the disk when loaded. Now, if you navigate to Menu and then press the Project tab, this will display a list of all of the audio samples that are being streamed from disk, which will have a green WAV icon next to the file. We can also visually see by track which samples are also being streamed or loaded into RAM. You can also change how a sample is loaded by simply holding the sample, and then you can use the pop-up to delete the sample or to load back into the RAM memory. You can also press Streaming or the Memory tab to have a list of the samples that are being streamed or in memory. When recording audio tracks, this will now be recorded directly to disk, giving you virtually unlimited recording time. You can also set the drive destination where your files will be saved, recorded, and streamed via Preferences, Project Files, and Temporary File Location. Now, for the best performance speed, we also recommend fitting an SSD drive into the drive bay. So you can now use disk streaming to capture a full live performance triggered from FORCE using external hardware by recording the parts as audio tracks directly to disk. You can now assign all automatable parameters from FORCE to a MIDI controller using the MIDI Learn feature. This allows you to have even more hands-on control of FORCE and its powerful features, enhancing your performance and productions. Now, in this setup, I've connected the AKAI MIDI mix by USB, which now gives me over additional 48 controls, which I can assign to any of my FORCE parameters to control my plugin synths, my insert and rack effects, and my third-party external sound and synth modules, by simply using a USB MIDI controller to expand the creativity and control for a live performance. In this setup, I'm controlling the sculpt synth, cutoff, resonance, and filter directly from MIDI mix. Now let's bring in our Odyssey synth, where I'm controlling the cutoff and resonance externally from MIDI mix. Now let's select our bass, where we're driving the cutoff and resonance Now let's bring in a vocal and control the delay from Force using MIDI mix. Now let's control the master filter on our main outputs 1 and 2. And now let's blend MIDI mix in with Force's Touch UI XY effects. As you can see, this really pushes the boundaries of what's achievable with live performance. Now to set up MIDI Learn is very straightforward. Go to the menu button and then press the MIDI Learn tab. Once selected, we can now use the Touch UI to set up our parameters. Simply start by the plus sign, and then we need to put in our source. Here, you can select the device that you want to control, and then once selected, we need to select a target of the parameter that we want to control. This will display a list of all available parameters that can be assigned and controlled from your MIDI controller. Now, once you've found your parameter, we now simply need to press MIDI Learn, and now let's move our fader on our MIDI mix. This will now control the volume of Odyssey. We can also select the type of behavior that we want on our buttons and our encoders from our MIDI controller. Once selected, simply push down on the data wheel. So if we now go to our mixer window, we can now see that when I move my fader, we are now controlling Odyssey's volume. Now when you combined MIDI Learn with rack effects, instruments, USB MIDI and audio support, this turns Force into the most powerful standalone for driving your live performance and studio synth setups. In 3.1, you can now connect any class compliant USB audio interface or audio mixer, expanding the I/O capabilities of Force, providing you with 32 inputs and outputs. This is perfect for routing and controlling your external keyboards, modules, summing your beats to a mixer, connecting microphones, recording vocals and drums, to routing individual audio to your DAW. Now in this example, I'm using Force, which is connected to the Model 12, which has now expanded my I/O to 10 inputs and outputs using a single USB cable out of Force. This allows me now to control the individual levels of my beat directly from the Model 12 coming out of Force. Here I can pull down my melodics, my hats, kick, and have full control over my beat. Now to set up our audio support is very simple. Let's navigate to Menu, then to Preferences, and here you can select whichever audio interface you've got connected to Force. Now to arm all 32 inputs and outputs, simply tick the box. Now let's navigate to Mixer, where we can set up our individual outputs. We'll go to our I/O tab, and now we can select our individual outputs that we want to route to our mixer. If you hold down Shift and Mixer, we can now go into the individual drum kit, and we can now assign all of our individual samples direct to our Model 12. Once you've assigned your channels, you can now play your beat back and have full control of your mix using our new audio support. We can add EQ, balance our drums, until we got our mix tight. Having this type of control really allows you to be hands-on with your music productions, mixing, and refining your tracks. Now let's bring in our vocals. In 3.1, we've added a powerful vocal suite consisting of 3 plugins allowing you to add popular vocal effects such as real-time pitch correction, vocal tuning, vocal harmonies, and voice doubling effects to your audio recordings, vocal samples without the need of a DAW. Now the first in the suite is Vocal Tuner. This is a dedicated pitch correction plugin for that natural or hard-tuned vocal effect. This brings that classic retuned vocal effect that you hear on countless records. We can select different detection types, vocal range, key and scale, and the amount of tuning we want to apply to our vocal. If we want to reduce the amount of retuning, simply increase the time value. The next plugin in the suite is Vocal Harmonizer. This is a 4-part vocal harmonizer effect for creating rich and realistic harmony parts to your vocals. We can control the volume, panning of each individual harmony, to changing the scale and the formant, to EQing our complete harmony. The last in the suite is Vocal Doubler. This creates a realistic doubling effect, adding width, thickness, and stereo widening to your vocals. Adding modern vocal effects to FORCE allows you to incorporate vocal mixes into your music. We've added 3 new powerful plug-in instruments to FORCE, taken from our most successful MPC update 2.10, adding a whole new arsenal of sounds for your music productions. The first plugin is Odyssey, a faithful reproduction of this analog classic. Odyssey captures the characters and nuance of the original using groundbreaking circuitry modeling and signal processing. Odyssey features circuit-modeled oscillators, filters with a gorgeous touch UI, and we've even recreated a 1970s tape delay. You can play Odyssey in mono, dual-phonic, or as a polyphonic synth with over 200 presets to get you up and running. Then we have Mellotron, a software recreation of this classic tape keyboard featuring the 6 tape sets of the original choir, flute, string tape samples. With its elegant UI, you can edit everything from the formant, age, sample start, to blend in new integrated flavor effects, adding amp simulations to lo-fi textures. Then we have Selena, a software recreation of this classic string machine, featuring balanced sampled versions of the original string layers. You can blend, edit the sounds using the touch UI, add vibrato, formant, filter effects, and age parameters to further shape your sound. Selena includes 75 factory presets and a new air flavor effects for that lo-fi treatment on your productions. In 3.1, we've added 7 brand new powerful plugin effects taken from MPC 2.10, allowing you to transform and flip your melodics, beats and performances into complex dark lo-fi grainy textures. The first of these effects is half speed. This adds the half speed effect to all of your samples, instruments or tracks for that must-have lo-fi sound. We can mix between our wet and dry signal. We can fade the effect in and out, add a high and low pass filter to really darken our melodics. Half speed will push your productions into today's standard. Then we have Diode Clipper. This adds a subtle distortion effect, perfect for adding flavor and grit to your beats. Then we have Stutter. This is for creating mind-blowing glitch effects, capable of a wide range of volume, pan, pitch shifting effects that you can freeze and mangle your beats, all fully assignable with FORCE's hands-on controls. The next is Granulator. Let's bring in a vocal. You can process audio in new and creative ways, which can be looped, pitch shifted, and manipulated. Now let's bring in a diffuser delay, adding a whole new dimension of depth. We also added sample delay that you can loosen up your percussion and add stereo width and the air limiter so you can push the levels of your beats. In 3.1, you can now quickly mangle and process your samples with a range of quick access drum pad effects. Use any of the 8 effect slots per pad to add effects such as ring mod, bit crusher, decimator, tube drive, to soft and hard clipping. Simply dial in the amount and add the effect to your drums. You can take your beats from this to this. Let's drop our 808. In 3.1, we've added portamento to the key group engine, so you can now create 808 glides for trap, hip-hop, and drill beats. You'll now see a portamento tab where you can dial in how much of the glide you want on your beat. We can add legato, quantize to your glides. Take your beats from Force straight to the clubs. When chopping loops and breaks in Force, you can now add a sample tail to your chops, making your beats feel more natural for your productions. When chopping loops and breaks, sample chops can have abrupt endings. Here's some examples. Now in 3.1, we've now added a tail length and start, which enables you to smooth out and add decay to the end of your chops. Listen to this loop without any tail length added. Now let's take the same loop and add a tail length to each of our parts of the break. Now we've added our tail length, let's play the same beat back. You can hear the difference of tail adds to each of the chops, making it feel more natural for your productions. Drum and key group programs have been significantly enhanced in Force 3.1, adding more features and improvements on visual displays, helping you push your productions. Each envelope page now has a dedicated screen with its parameters clearly displayed, so you can touch the UI and edit your envelopes with ease. You can also add a curve to the envelope by touching the UI to shape your sound. We also added a pitch envelope inside Force, adding a whole new level of punch, affecting the pitch of your samples using the ADSR. We can change the depth of our pitch and how much of the pitch will be affected by velocity. In this example, the kick and 808 and snare will be affected by the pitch envelope, creating a whole new level of punch. As we select our 808 hi-hats, we're changing the pitch in real time by changing the depth and the pitch by velocity. This saves you endless time programming modern day hi-hats. In Force 3.1, you can now record automation across your submixes, returns, and the master channel. In this example, I've grouped my tracks into subgroup 1, where I've inserted a stutter and a filter effect, being controlled by my crossfader and the touchscreen. Then my master channel has effects rack assigned. Now let's press write automation, which we can either do from our mixer channel or from our arranger. And now we can write directly into our timeline. We've also added a master tab, which allows us to jump between our tracks and our sub, sends, and our master groups. Now let's record our automation from our subgroup and our master channel. Now I'm using the XY effects and the crossfader, which is assigned to our subgroup. And I've also got my effects rack on my master channel directly accessible from the 8 macro knobs. As we create our performance, this is all being recorded as automation directly into our timeline. So now that we've finished our performance, let's take a look at our automation that we've recorded. So if we now go to our main menu and we're going to go to our arranger, we can now select our automation and we can see all of the different passes that we've recorded from our subgroups and our master channels. So if we now look at our subgroups, you'll see an indicator. That means that we've actually got automation recorded on that track. So let's play back our performance. And now you can see the automation has been recorded. And we can edit this by using our toolbar by simply drawing in any changes that we want to make on our timeline to our subgroups, sends, and our master channels. Now to learn more about 3.1, head over to akaipro.com and learn about Force. See you next time.